I'm so happy to see all of you here this afternoon, and I know many of you are waiting for Mr. Culver. But before we do that, I'd like to introduce you to one of my colleagues, one of my friends, one of the commission colleagues, Paul Pettis. I don't know, many of you may know him. Paul is the guy who helps to drive people to and from appointments. He's the one that actually delivers meals to the homebound. He's here at the center helping out on many different levels. And so I would like to introduce to you my friend, my commission colleague, Paul Pettis.
Thank you so much. It is really my extreme pleasure to introduce our featured speaker today, Mr. Craig Culver. I had the opportunity to work for Culver's Restaurants for 10 years as a director of public relations and communications before I retired 3.5 years ago, and it was really I would say the most fulfilling 10 years of my professional career. A lot of people have asked me, well, what's Craig Culver like? And I keep saying, well, there's a lot of ways to describe Craig, but I'm just going to pick on two very shortly. First of all, passion. Craig is a passionate person. He's an entrepreneur. He's a risk taker. And he had to be a risk taker to bring Culver's to where it is today at almost 1,000 restaurants. Almost 1,000 restaurants in 26 states. The other piece of it is perseverance. You will hear in just a minute or so Craig tell you that those first few years of Culver's was very trying, was very difficult. And in fact, he will tell you that it almost failed. But obviously, it did not. So it is my pleasure to introduce the Culver's co-founder and my good friend, Mr. Craig Culver.
Yeah, I'm one of the guys that started Culver's. How about that? I got in the restaurant business because I was forced into the restaurant business. What does that mean? My family was in the restaurant business, so of course I go to work. My dad, when I was 11 years old, my brother was 9, my sister was 14. My dad bought a little A&W drive-in in Sauk City, Wisconsin, right on Highway 12. That's where the first Culver's is, still there yet today and doing very well. But my dad bought this little A&W, little shack of a place, 5 and 10 cent root beers. This is 1961, by the way. 1961, he bought this place, 5 and 10 cent root beers, 15-cent hot dogs, hamburgers, French fries, car hop service, parking lot was gravel, no canopy of any kind. When the cars pulled in, they kind of surrounded the place is what they did. But he bought this, never being in the food service business. He came from the dairy business. He worked for Wisconsin Dairies for years as a field man, going out and putting farms on grade A is what he did. And for whatever reason, I think the kids may have had something to do with it, but for whatever reason, Dad decided he wanted to control his own life and buy his own business. And my dad, yeah, Paul, you're right. Dad was an entrepreneur, a risk taker. And he bought this little A&W with Mom, of course. As I said, not knowing a thing about the business. But the gentleman he bought it from was supposed to stay on for 2 weeks training Mom and Dad in the business. Well, guess what? He didn't show up. So here they are. And now it's not rocket science, I know that. But they were never in the business. Putting the machinery together, the ice cream machine or the soft serve machine, the grills, the fryers, how to filter the fryers, how to clean this, how to make the root beer, because we made the root beer back then at A&W. I think they probably still do, as a matter of fact. But you know what? Mom and Dad figured it out. That's who they were. And I didn't realize how smart my parents were. Now, my dad, basically deaf from birth, wore hearing aids in both ears, from birth. And he barely finished high school. No college degrees. Mom, she did well in high school, but no college degrees there. But I didn't realize how smart my parents were until years later, when I started growing my career in the restaurant industry, looking back at my parents, at the different businesses that they had over the years, how smart they were. Mom and Dad were so good at surrounding themselves with wonderful people, people that knew how to say please and thank you and my pleasure, and it came from here. Talented people, yes, but good people. They were so good at that. And of course that carried over for the rest of their career in the restaurant industry. And I think some of it carried over to me as well. More so my mom's and dad, by the way. I'll get to that, okay? My dad was a tough guy, all right? He was argumentative at times, but as he got older and older, he became the sweetest gentleman in the world as well. So we bought this little A&W, and as I said, I'm 11, my brother's 9, and guess what? It's like a farm family. Everybody goes to work. So the kids all went to work. 9 and 11-year-old, probably illegal, right? But we went to work anyway, and, washing mugs, doing whatever Mom and Dad needed us to do. And we had that place, bought it in 61. Dad sold it in 1968. That's the year I graduated from high school, from Sauk Prairie High School, Sauk City, Prairie to Sac. We call it Sauk Prairie. That's the year I graduated from high school, and Dad decided to sell. And I didn't care. This was never going to be my vocation. You should laugh there, because it was never going to be my vocation. You got to work too hard, too many hours. And so I went off to college. I've got a degree in biology, of all things, from UW-Oshkosh. And Dad, when he sold, he couldn't sit still. He had to find another business. The entrepreneur in him just kept driving him. And he found this resort at the north entrance of Devil's Lake State Park called the Farm Kitchen Resort. 24 cottages, swimming pool, shuffleboard, 40 acres, gardens, flower gardens, regular gardens. The lodge itself was 2 big dining rooms. We had a little bar in it, big kitchen. Everything at the farm kitchen was made from scratch. Now here's my mom and dad coming from a hot dog stand. They didn't know how to run that to begin with. And now this is a big business they're buying. Again, I didn't think anything of it. Their mom and dad, they're going to figure it out. And guess what? They did. It was a wonderful business, and it was a business, a place that I did like. We bought it in, what was it, 1968, when I graduated from high school. And like I said, I went off to school, but I'd come back, it was a seasonal business, I'd come back in the summer months to work the Farm Kitchen Resort. And like I said, it was a wonderful place, but this still was not going to be my vocation. 6 years later, when I finally graduated from college, that means I had an extended time in college. I came back, and Dad, not only his hearing was terrible, but Dad was going blind. And he sat me down, and Dad recognized something in me that I didn't. Dad, we never talked about it. Passion. Paul mentioned it just a little while ago. Dad recognized that I loved this place. So he sat me down, knowing that he and Mom probably couldn't run the place without my help and without my brother's help. He said, "Son, would you take over and be the general manager of the Farm Kitchen Resort?" I looked back at my dad and I said, absolutely not. And here I am, a young person just graduating from college. Nobody's out there clamoring to, hey, come work with us, come work, with our company or whatever. I was sending resumes out everywhere and not getting a response. And I turned my dad down. It's one of the great regrets I have, is saying no to my father with this opportunity given to me. But I said no. Restaurant business wasn't going to be my life. I've watched my parents my whole life in this business, and it wasn't going to be me. It became me. It did. Dad sold the farm kitchen resort. I had no job. And I went to visit my sister one day. She was living here in Madison. And Georgia, my sister's name, she knew I needed a job. And she said, Craig, you should go visit with my next door neighbor. Her next door neighbor, I won't mention the name, but he worked for McDonald's. He was an area supervisor for McDonald's. He ran about 6 of the restaurants. They had about, 10, 11, 12 restaurants in Madison at the time, all corporate owned. And she said, Craig, go visit with Tom, see if he can get a job with McDonald's. And I said to my sister, Georgia, you know I don't want to be in the restaurant business, and I sure don't want to work for McDonald's. Guess what? I went to work for McDonald's. But it wasn't that easy. I went over and talked to Tom, and a real informal interview. He didn't hire me. He invited me back for a more formal interview. They didn't hire me then. They didn't hire me on the third time. Took me 4 interviews to get a job with McDonald's. I wasn't feeling a lot of self-worth at that time. Come on. I wasn't applying for the CEO role. I was applying to be a manager trainee, much like many of our people. Matter of fact, today, we've got a class of about 40 people in our office who were doing just what I did, but they're going through classroom training and such. Well, I went to work for McDonald's, and I learned a lot from the McDonald's people. One of the things I didn't learn from my parents in the businesses that we had was the financial end of the business. I didn't know the P's and Q's. I didn't know what an income statement was, what cash flow meant, inventory controls, waste controls, labor controls. The McDonald's people had to know. And they taught me that stuff, and it stuck. But I learned a lot of things from my parents as well. Loyalty, honesty, hard work. One of the things my dad taught me a long time ago was about quality. Quality of food, quality of anything that you do. In the food business, you can tweak product pretty easily. When prices go up, when commodities go up, it's pretty easy to tweak a product to get to a better price. He said, son, you never do that. If you're going to do anything, you enhance the product. You make it better. And you know what? You may have to charge more for that. My mom was hostess with a mostess. She was that lady when somebody would walk into our business, the farm kitchen or other businesses that we had, beautifully dressed, always, beautiful lady. But she was that lady that greeted the guests when they came in and treated them like family. That was my mom. My mom was also a very hard worker. Even though she'd have beautiful dresses on and such, that didn't stop her from kneeling down, cleaning the floor, carrying bus tubs back to the kitchen. And the joke is, if she'd get a little smudge on that dress, that meant Dad had to buy her a new dress. That's what it meant. So my parents, a big, big influence on me, and not only in the business, but in life as well. And of course, the McDonald's people were a big, big influence on the business side of me. I spent 4 years with McDonald's, and you know what? I started to become my father. I was starting to burn entrepreneurism inside me. I wanted my own place, my own business. I didn't have any money. Any bankers in this group? Former bankers? Yeah, you won't admit it probably. Well, bankers don't lend money to somebody with no money, so that was out of the question. I would have loved a McDonald's franchise. That was out of the question. Well, what can I do? If I can't get a McDonald's franchise, what can I do? Buy that A&W back that we once owned. Mom and Dad were living in Madison at the time. They thought they were retired. Here's a thought. And I gave Dad a call. I was still with McDonald's at the time. I gave Dad a call. I said, Dad, help me out here. Let's go back to our hometown of Sauk City and buy that A&W back. Now remember, my dad's an entrepreneur. He immediately said yes. My mother was listening to our conversation. She was immediately saying no. She didn't win that argument. And Dad and I, we make the little trip from Madison to Sauk City, and we end up buying the A&W back from the same person Dad had sold it to. Now the A&W had changed. I told you about the little shack of a place. That had burned down. The new A&W prototype was built in its place. We had seating inside for 74, a carport off the back that parked 20 cars, electronic ordering where you push a button when you pull in and somebody answers inside and the car hop carries it out and hangs it on your window. Remember any of that? Yeah.
My mother was your car hop.
Are you a Perry? I thought so. Sandy, right?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Delicious.
Oh, stop it. So, we buy the A&W back for the second time. And we operate it as a family business. And we have it for 6 years. We do quite well at it. And after 6 years, we're approached by a couple gentlemen from Madison here that wanted to buy it from us. And Dad and I, being the entrepreneurs we thought we thought we can sell it, we'll go find something else. We'll sell this at a nice price so we make a good profit on it and go find another place. We sold it. And part of the deal was I had to stay on for 2 months, 2 of the worst months of my life, by the way, training them in the business. We also sold it on a land contract, and that's where we're the banker in the deal. So if something goes awry, they don't make payments, guess what? We get it back, or could get it back. Well, I stayed on for my 2 months. As soon as those 2 months were up, man, I couldn't wait to get out of there, and I raced right for my father again. I still had no money. I said, Dad, let's find another business. We found another business in Baraboo, Wisconsin at Ritz Corners. That's the intersection of Highway 33 and Highway 12. Arnie's Ritz, the restaurant, sat there. We bought it. Changed it to Culver's Ritz, typical Wisconsin supper club. Salad bar, the bar itself had maybe 15 to 20 stools. Brandy old-fashioned sweet. You ever heard of that drink? We had about 100 seats in the dining room. Really a nice little supper club. We have it for 2 years, family run, and we're hearing the rumblings and rumors of what's going on down Highway 12 at the A&W Drive-In, and it's not good. Things weren't going good for them. And I'm thinking, we could get this place back. I wanted it back. I did. I told you I went to school at UW Oshkosh. In Oshkosh, there's a little custard stand called Leon's. There's one in Milwaukee, too, Leon's frozen custard there. They were related at one time, not any longer. But whenever I got a chance, I'd run over there and get a vanilla cone. This stuff was so good. You know, I didn't think back then, of course, I didn't want to be in the business, but I didn't think that I'd ever serve that someday. But now I'm thinking frozen custard in Sauk City, Wisconsin. The Butterburger, where the heck did that come from? A friend of mine from Milwaukee, grew up in Milwaukee, lived by a little drive-in called the Milky Way. And they served the Butterburger. And he shared that story with me. When he told me that, a light bulb went off. I said, man, if I ever get the chance, frozen custard, Butterburgers, how can you go wrong? Yes, you can go wrong, I found out. So we get the A&W back. We able to sell the Little Ritz Supper Club actually to the same family that had bought the farm kitchen from us years prior. We get the A&W back. We decide to defranchise. And Paul knows that's not a word I like to use around our franchisees, by the way. But you're supposed to laugh there. That's a funny. And we get rid of all the oranges and browns colors of the A&W, and everything was going to be blue and white. We got it back in March of 1984. We finally opened in July 18th, 1984. This coming July 18th is our 40th year in business. So we're pretty excited about that, yeah. We hope to match it with a 1,000th restaurant, but that's not going to happen. So we get it back. As I said, we painted everything blue and white, and we remodeled the inside and those colors as well. We did some landscaping outside. And July 18th, we opened as Culver's Frozen Custard and Butterburgers. That big blue oval road sign that you see, the reason that it's an oval is because the A&W sign was an oval. So we took their plates out of the can and had ours manufactured and plugged ours in. When we opened, like I said, it can go wrong. Nobody knew what frozen custard was. Nobody knew what a Butterburger was. 1984, Hardee's is right across the street from us. Fastest growing burger chain in America at the time. Their parking lot is full. Dairy Queen invented the Blizzard that year. Their parking lot is full. And here we sit with 2 or 3 cars when we open. Well, I drive a car, my dad drives a car, my mom drives a car. Yeah, it was that sad. That first year in business, we came so close to not making it. And I got down during that first year. We had, we had nothing but successes with all our prior businesses. I never dreamt back then that we could fail. But yes, we could have failed. I had family around me that said, Craig, we're going to do whatever it takes. If that means working 7 days a week, early in the morning till late at night, that's what we're going to do. And you know what? I make fun of bankers a lot. We had a banker that believed in us, believed in the Culver family, not the concept of Culvers. I think he could have cared less about that, but he did believe in us. He kept us whole during that first year. And my dad reminded me many times during that first year that this was my such and such idea to do this such and such thing. Well, 3 years later, he takes all the credit for it. That's not true. My parents, they were there for me. Lee Culver, now my ex-wife, she was there for me, for us, and somehow or another we got by that first year, losing lots of money. And I remind all of our operators of this story, because just because you put that blue oval sign out in the road doesn't guarantee you success. You, the leader, you're the leader, have to drive success. Like my parents did many years ago, surrounding themselves with wonderful people, that's what it takes. And you got to make it happen each and every day with each and every guest and with each and every team member as well. That's the magic to business. People are the magic to business. They really are. And having the right team around you. First year, as I said, we lost lots of money. Second year, we broke even. And we had no marketing plan. We didn't have money to spend. You know, we spend millions today on marketing. We didn't have any money for print, for radio, for TV. But the best marketing yet in this world, and I think you all know what it is, word of mouth, right? Word of mouth. When somebody tells you about some business or restaurant or whatever, how good it was and how well you were treated, aren't you inclined to go there? I am. I love supper clubs. When somebody tells me about a supper club someplace that you gotta go to, man, I go to it. Well, that's how we started to grow our business. People telling other people about this little place in Sauk City with a blue roof that serves ice cream. They called it ice cream. It frustrated me to no end, by the way. It's frozen custard, and I'd always correct them. Today, I don't care what you call it, as long as you buy it. That's what I care. And Butterburgers, they didn't have a clue what a Butterburger was, but I'll tell you what, they enjoyed them. And they told people around, you got to go to this little place in Sauk City. And the third year is when we made the first buck at the business. Took 3 years to make money at the business. So now what are we thinking? Having some success at it. Well, of course, we got to open a second one, right? And we did in Reedsburg, Wisconsin. That was 1987. We opened a third in Lake Delton, Wisconsin, same year. And then we're thinking, let's franchise this son of a gun, not knowing a thing about franchising. But we got licensed to franchise by an outfit out of Chicago. And we finally had our first opportunity in a community about 45 minutes from Sauk City. I'm not going to tell you what town it was in because it didn't work. 1 year after opening our first franchise restaurant, their lawyer, they hired a lawyer to get back to us saying our client doesn't want to be part of this story. And it hurt. It really hurt. We put a year of blood, sweat, and tears into opening that first franchise restaurant, and now we get stabbed. And so we hire the attorney as well. We negotiate out of the deal, and I said, I'll never do this again. Well, we did. It was 1990 when we opened our first successful franchise restaurant in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Today we own that restaurant, but that family that franchised from us back then, they're still with us yet today in a number of different restaurants around the tri-state area. And we started growing and growing. And there was a point in the early 90s where we opened up 14 restaurants in 1 year. And we couldn't handle it. We didn't have the infrastructure in place. So I said, we're going to stop franchising for a period of time. We stopped for a year to grow the infrastructure of our company and then reopened it. And there was a line of people ready to sign a franchise with us. When you tell somebody no, they want it even more. It's a great marketing plan, it really is. But we reopened. We've never shut it down again. We've closed off different areas, like, different areas. Wisconsin was closed at one time. It's reopened. But we do close the areas down at times if we think we're getting ahead of ourselves. But as Paul said, today we have 975 restaurants open. The plan was to have number 1,000 open this year. But I don't think they're all in the pipeline and then some. But I don't think we're going to hit that this year. No big deal. One of the things my dad told me a long time ago, we had about 100 restaurants at that time. That's a lot of restaurants. He said, Craig, it's not important how many restaurants you have. What's important is how many good restaurants you have. And how do you get good restaurants? I referenced it a little while ago. People, 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 people. And they got to be led by great leadership. And if we continue to do that, which we are, I see the future very bright for us. I really do. So that's my little story, and you know what? I'm sticking to that story because it's the truth. So that's it.